Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. Ooh, I've been on the flex since flex zone. Neighborhood all in your eardrums. I ain't never scared like Bone Crush. Boy, I got God, don't fear none. My line busy, take no calls. Feels like I don't have no flaws. Snakes in the grass, cut those off. Your old squad shitty, my bros raw. No breaks, we go, 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 go. Throw shade, that's a no, 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 no. Go high, go low, low, low. Like spinning in a 644. Cash money like 504. Ball like AD24. No sleep, need more, more, more. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. Ooh, I'm a real one, my day ones. Try speak up, can't say none. Try dig dirt, there ain't none. I make the money that save up. 10 to 80, my save ones. Take to the top on the base one. New car, fast lane. With the booyah, that's a flex. Not a human, I ain't from another planet. I'ma teleport, might vanish. I'ma wake up, do damage. Join number 7.
Hello and welcome into Colorado Collegiate Focus. My name is Jonathan Cronenberg. With me is Tony Casolo. Tony, how are we doing today? Happy Halloween, first of all, actually.
Happy Halloween to you, John. I'm feeling great. We can't seem to get you two healthy over there. As you can see, we're down another member because even though Rick and his team get to leave with a win, he leaves with a massive cold. What is this, guys? You fighting or something behind the scenes, and I got to keep you two separated, or what's going on here?
Man, it's been rough getting well these past few days, but I'm glad to be finally back. And like I said, it's Halloween, so kind of have some good spirits going, and maybe some spooky spirits, I guess, because when you have that head cold, you kind of things are different, a little bit different. So watching football, it was really fun this week, but honestly, some of the rules, they can be more confusing when you're not as in your head as usual, especially. So it's been fun though in terms of football. What are you doing though in terms of Halloween? Anything planned?
Oh, we have our classic get all dressed up and then go trick-or-treating with the kids. Got to go in our neighborhood. Yeah. Got to go in the grandparents' neighborhood, the standard. We've had Halloween parties the last 2 days at each of their schools, so they each got to dress up. Yeah,
that's what I'm usually hear now is people, instead of going trick or treating, it's you go to your elementary school, do it there, but you're still going outside, going in the weather. It doesn't sound like it's going to be too bad today here in Colorado, but you still have to be kind of bundled up there.
Oh, of course. I mean, when you grow up here, you know that you have to cater your costumes to including weather gear. So It's nothing new for the kids. They've been used to it by now. So yeah.
So what are you wearing?
So I have been dressing up as Charizard for the last couple of weeks, actually, at this point, because something fun that I should let our audience know about. For those that don't know, the Denver Museum does a great Halloween party around Halloween every year, and we've attended it the last 2 years. And what's really cool about it is you actually get to sleep inside the museum in costume and everything. So we had our blow-up mattresses, and we got to go there last week. You have dinner and breakfast while the museum is closed. I think this year we got to sleep by the African safari panorama or diorama, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, no, I've been Charizard every time I've been dressing up. I was actually Charizard at trivia last night when I host, and I will be Charizard again tonight.
Awesome. Well, you want to get into some we're going to get into some football this show. Probably going to get into some basketball as it comes up shortly here, starting for both Air Force. Colorado State has theirs on Monday as well, and I think CU has their game on Monday. Am I correct?
That is correct. Actually, both men's and women's. And like I previewed in the show last week, I'll actually be in Las Vegas and be covering the women's game live next Monday in T-Mobile Arena. So you can see some fun videos and stuff that I'll have planned from the strip. So
will we be putting those videos? Will be on Buffalo Wire?
No, I'm probably going to be throwing it up on the CCF page. So if you guys follow us there, I'll be throwing some stuff up there for you guys.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. And let's get into some football. Where do you want to start with, Air Force and CSU?
I mean, I think we got to talk about the in-state matchup for sure.
And I think the goes to the winner, unfortunately. So.
Man, that was a really, really close game.
It was
4.5.
I was very impressed. I understand what you're saying. Eventually, I think we were all kind of talking in some group texts and basically saying, we know this is going to be worn down. We've seen it before, how Air Force is able to kind of have a tight first half, and then all of a sudden they have an explosion of points where, the defense could no longer keep up with it. And I think CSU had that similar issue. They did a great job in terms of, in the first half, setting the edge, making sure that they weren't able to get these pitches, able to stuff inside. It really was a great job for CSU for that first half. It just seems like Air Force goes into the halftime and it adjusts so well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's something that I wish for the other two Colorado teams. But the trenches for Air Force, I mean, they completely take teams over in the trenches. They grind them with that run game. They keep grinding them down. And then all of a sudden, those pass rushers are able to start getting free, start locking down the pass and run game of Air Force. I mean, it's just that defensive front and that offensive line are just so talented for Air Force.
Yeah, we got Taylor coming in here. He's a Rams fan, so he's saying go Rams, but also saying congrats to Air Force. They are they are the class of the Mountain West, and I agree. It's one of those things where I think this isn't against the Rams. We're rooting for the Rams here, but they really showed some good things as well. I think for defensively, you can be very proud as a Rams fan. So appreciate you joining us, Taylor, and thanks for the comments.
And I think, I think that shows something that's actually really cool, because I had a bunch of those kind of conversations with both friends and associates that I've worked with on the Rams side after CU beat CSU. You tend to see in Colorado, and I don't know, this is not what I've dealt with in other parts of the country. Sure, you'll have your guys that are talking shit no matter what, but you're definitely going to have your guys that congratulate the other teams, recognize when you either beat or win, get beat or win. It's just a fun atmosphere. It's a fun time to be a college fan in Colorado for sure.
Yeah, and I think, when it came to Colorado State, they had some great moments. BFN really is coming into his own. I understand a lot of people held him responsible for that fumbled ball that was returned and really set up Air Force well. I understand he has to have the ball kind of up higher. But that comes with time and age. I think also when you're in the snow and the elements, you have different ways of holding the ball and doing different things, just because you need to have that kind of different structure with a wet ball, I feel like. So I really don't hold that turnover against him that much like a lot of fans did.
Yeah, I think anyone saying that BFN needs to be holding the ball in a different position is not giving Bo Richter enough credit, because that was a hell of a play. Yeah. To recognize that the ball is low or in a different position from where you normally see it, and instead of just going for the crunching hit, you actually stick your hand out and swipe it away. That I get what people are trying to say. Yes, BFN needs to protect the ball, but they're devaluing how great of a play that actually was by Bo Richter. And to be completely honest with you, it was at a time in the game where CSU really had all the momentum. They had scored 10 straight. They were driving again. That was, kind of perfect turnover at the perfect time for Air Force to get them back into that first half.
Exactly. I agree with you there. And when it came to CSU, again, another issue for them was the run game. I feel like it put Fowler, Nicolosi in a bad situation. When you look at the comparison, 42 yards rushing, that's basically what Air Force did in passing. So really, I feel for that team that they didn't get the ball out there and running. I felt like, hey, if they tried a little bit harder, maybe they would have had a little more plays open up. That's just been an issue with the Rams all year, and it's going to continue to happen. So I found it interesting how they only had 42 yards rushing, and that was similar to what Air Force had in passing. So it really became a game of each team fighting with their strengths in those weather.
Yeah, and it's something that's going to come up when we talk about CU again. I want to see the balance out of both CSU and CU. For you to call, you look at it, 19 rushes for 42 yards, but 4 of those are carries that are attributed to BFN that are probably sacks, because it's 4 rushes for minus 13 yards. For those of you that don't know, in college football, sacks are actually counted against the quarterback's rushing total, while in the NFL, they're counted against their passing total. So that's just a little bit of difference there. A lot of the time, you'll see quarterbacks with 4 carries for minus 13 yards. That means they got sacked 4 times. So when you really look at the numbers, they only called 15 run plays versus 45 pass plays, or close to 50 pass plays when you factor in the sacks that are counted as runs. So again, I mean, you see these things with CU and CSU where they're just so out of whack in close games. There's no balance to their game. For you to call 50 passes and 15 runs, I mean, you're just putting your quarterback in a precarious position. You need to be able to run the football. I'm telling you, CU, CSU, you need to be able to run the football. It's going to help you win games.
Otherwise, like Air Force here, just tee off. You know that you're going to go after the quarterback. It makes it so much easier when you know where you're going after, and you can really understand the play is going to be a pass. Just NFL teams would dream of this as well. I mean, it just means send your guys that are good pass rushers, and it really did work out well, like you said, for that strip kind of fumble there. That they knew what was going on, so they could go ahead and make that kind of play. And so I was really impressed with that in terms of Air Force taking advantage and knowing what was happening and not being so fooled about it. And, some other things about this game that, were really interesting for me were honestly came down to there weren't that many punts. This game was a very efficient game, it felt like. Teams were able to get their third downs done. They were just efficient. So you only had 7 punts in the game, 4 by Air Force, 3 by Colorado State. So I really felt this was a balanced game. There wasn't, either turnovers as well. It just was a game of kind of, strength versus strength.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a really fun game to watch, and you could just see Air Force does what they do in the second half. CSU did a great job of holding them down. I think it was something where they only had like 80 yards rushing at half, which, I mean, for a team like Air Force that averages more than 300 running yards per game, if you're holding them to 80, you're well below their season average. It's just Air Force did what they do in the second half.
Exactly. And, one thing I have to admit that it was a big loss for CSU was Torrey Horton being kind of hurt with those rib injuries. And then, finally he kind of took a shot to the ribs and it really kind of took him out of the game. But he still had a good game, 5 receptions, 50 yards. But it really came down to Justice Ross Simmons with a big play. He had 8 receptions for over 120 yards. And that huge touchdown. And it feels like CSU needs to stop living and dying by these big plays. It seems like the only way they get, huge plays get, down the field are these big chunks or, pass interference penalties. They have to overcome that and start, connecting on some more of those crosses that we saw earlier that Horton did. And I think that's the next step for this team.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree with you. I think when you look at a team, again, that's so out of balance, like a CU or a CSU, you have to rely on big plays in the passing game in order to stick with a team as good as Air Force. And with the weather going on, with the relentless pressure, with them knowing what you're doing, they just couldn't rely on it.
Yeah, and we got Taylor coming back in here, letting us know, shout out to the Rams defense. They came out playing with fire, lost steam in the second half, but the offense didn't do them any favors after halftime. 100% agree. Again, they were coming after those pitches so hard and not allowing the running backs, the fullbacks, any of those guys get past, any contained, that they were on top of them. I really think that they did a great job. And that wasn't from the usual names. It wasn't just Mo Camara that we're hearing a lot of. It really was a team effort, a team tackling, which we've always been talking about. We want to see those kind of tackles where it's group and that kind of thing. So this was very impressive for me in that regard as well.
Yeah. And I think Taylor brings up a great point. You look at the second half drive summaries. Air Force held the ball for 6 minutes. CSU is only able to hold it for 2 minutes and then punts. They get a first down, but not enough momentum to let that defense, kind of get refreshed. Then Air Force is on the field for almost another 5 minutes. Then you look at it, CSU's 3 and out, don't even gain a single yard. Air Force hold it for almost another 3 minutes. And I mean, when you say you're holding the ball for 6, 5, 3 minutes against an offense like that, that means they're running the ball down your throat. They're getting 2, 3, 4 yards, 5 yards to carry. And you just get worn down. So I totally agree with what Taylor is saying there. You look at those drive summaries, they just got worn down on both sides of the ball. And that's what Air Force lives on. That's what they feast on. So
yeah, I mean, you look at what Eldridge did. Again, he had 10 carries. He used every single one of his carries efficiently, was able to get a touchdown on one of them. It seems like every game he's able to make a huge break, do a stiff arm, something where it's very impressive, where you wish you could see it in the NFL or see him compete in a Senior Bowl just to see him go against some of the best. And then Michelle does what he does best as well. He got 20 carries. They really just are doing what they do best, getting those high averages. Once they get use those 3-yard carries, like you said, they get to those 10-yard carries, and then you see those averages hit 5+ yards. I mean, that's where it gets really impressive.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you look at those two guys. I mean, it's essentially they were 30 for about 180, 190. So that means they're hitting you for 6 yards a carry. I mean, that's going to be dang near impossible to slow down when they're running and rumbling to that effectiveness.
Yeah, and I also thought they used the pass game very well, Air Force, in terms of using Kinnaman when they were in the red zone, very close to the end zone. I think that was a smart play. So again, they used their weapons as they should.
Yeah, I think again, Air Force has always been a run first team. But when they really can make that next step is once they have those quarterbacks where they're able to hit those big chunks in the passing game. Look at a guy like Hazik Daniels. Hazik Daniels made a living on hitting for 40, 50 yards down the field when they were least expecting it. Guy from when I was watching as a kid in high school, Sean Carney, he used to be able to pick you apart in the passing game. Of course, you're going to see the run 40 to 50 times a game. But those 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times that they actually attempt to throw, that's when Air Force takes it to the next level.
Yeah, and I think Zach Larrier can get there. I think that, again, there's also some good receivers, some good guys there, tight ends. So I think that they can definitely get there, but it's still a work in progress with Larrier. He's a run first guy, as Rick would say. He's a sprinter. He's world class in many areas. So for me, I understand he's not quite there yet, but when he gets there, because he still has many years left, I think this team's going to be even more dangerous. And like you said, this offensive line for Air Force deserves tip of the hat, because for me, they're a more candidate, to be one of the best offensive lines. I don't know who you can put really in front of them right now. A lot of people would, had Michigan last year. I didn't see it for them last year with Michigan. So for me, I would be excited to see if they get that award as well. And, otherwise, when it came to CSU, I was just very happy with what they did in terms of, honestly, the play call. I think they used Holker very well again. Using him in the way that he's been able to, he really expands that offense. So I've liked what they did. The defense did a good job. And from there, it's just one of those things where they got worn down, like Taylor said.
Yep, totally agree. We're sitting here, we kind of had these conversations. I'd like your opinion here. So after Air Force was able to shut Mo Camara out with 0 sacks, he now sits at 10.5. So I think we had talked about, I think the school record is somewhere around 16.
Yeah.
So that means over the last 4 games, he has to get about 6 sacks to be the all-time career leader and the season record holder.
Yeah,
you see him getting there?
That is real rough. I honestly, I can't see it right now. Just, again, knowing that next week they have a team in Wyoming, I just don't think they're going to be passing the ball 100, enough times for Mo Kamara to tee off and get some sacks. If he's teeing off, that probably means they're behind in some of these games, and I'm not sure, he's not going to be able to tee off if they're behind because they'll be running the ball. So it really comes down to also, can the offense keep up to allow him to be able to make those sacks? I just don't see it. It seems like a hard task.
Okay. Here's where I'm going to say, give Rams fans a little bit of hope. So I look at those last 2 games of the season.
Yeah.
I see a very, very bad Nevada team.
Yes,
and I see a very, very bad Hawaii team. I see that he can make a lot of noise in those last couple of games. He had a 3-sack game already this year at one point.
Yeah.
So if he can maybe pick up 1 or 2 in these next 2 weeks, I could see him making a lot of noise in those last 2 weeks for sure.
And those teams are very pass heavy. Am I correct?
Yeah. Historically, Hawaii has always been a team that's only throw the ball around the field.
Tommy Chang, though, they're now their head coach.
I mean, if he's their head coach, then they're going to be throwing the ball damn near every
I'm pretty sure he became their head coach. So they are going to be a passing team where he may be able to just go there and be told, get the quarterback. This was, Air Force didn't give them an opportunity. It's only 7 passes. There was no opportunity for sacks there.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. And it's one of those things that makes sense.
Thought process there. It really makes a lot of sense. And Nevada is having issues with their line. That's been an issue for them. So I totally agree, and I could see that.
Cool. Yeah, and actually Nevada is a former Buffalo great, but Brandon Lewis was taking snap there as a quarterback.
I haven't been able to watch him. I hope he's been doing well, though. It was kind of a odd end for him last year, and it's nice to see that he's gained some success elsewhere.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that you just always wanted it to work out for, and when it didn't, you were just like, darn.
And it felt close sometimes. A couple years ago, where he missed some guys, missed a few balls, and then it just kind of rolled into this whole big thing where then Owen McCown got to play, and it was in the end, now we have Deion Sanders, and it's great in that sense.
So this seems like a good time for us to flip over to another disappointing loss for our Buffaloes.
Let's do it.
Man, you just had such high hopes in that first half. That defense was flying around and making plays for you and just absolutely keeping you in the game. And then it seems like just as the thieves that were able to break into both locker rooms and steal all the players' jewelries in that hellhole we call LA, but
we'll get to that. Yes, we will.
But it just seems, it feels like it's one of those games where when you you win the turnover battle 4-0, you're not supposed to have the game stolen away from you like that. Like it's just.
But was it stolen away? And it's, I felt like the line in so many ways just said, hey, I mean, literally they had their hands up and nothing was going on. They were saying, hey, you can take this if you want. It's up to you now. It really felt like from the start, the offensive line, even though the CU got those, first points off those 2 drives, they got field goals. It really felt like the offensive line just had no groove going. They didn't seem like they knew how to pass off blockers at all. That was a big concern of mine. Like if a guy crossed your face, they just didn't know what to do.
Yep.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, and I think that goes along with, unfortunately, you're going to see communication issues like that when you're shuffling guys in and out of the lineup. Now, we had 2 brand new starters, at both left guard. I think it was both at left guard. No, sorry, right guard and left tackle. So we had Isaiah Jada that was able to play the first couple series, and it seems like he went down with injury. So Tank came back into the game at left tackle. And then we had a new right guard in Kareem Harden playing, guy that had been playing some right tackle for us. So again, it's not only you're shuffling guys in and out, but you're actually moving guys to different positions.
Yeah, and it's hard when you switch those natural positions, especially footwork, where your hands go, setting your depth. That's all different. That is difficult. But again, I felt like Colorado needed to go back to basics when it came to the offensive line. Make those calls. Say, hey, if you want to straight up say, this is my number, do it instead of just letting them cross you and not block them. Talk to your guys and give those calls. Give your, hey, go, let them know those calls. It has to go back to simplicity. I'm not sure, I know a lot of people are, disappointed with Bill O'Boyle. I don't think it really falls 100% on him. I think that this comes down to those linemen have to speak to each other. And from what I was understanding, they didn't, have the greatest communication. And that really just, it hurts Sanders so much. That really put the passing game into they were kind of just, strangled a little bit by what they were able to do because of the lack of time for passing.
Yeah, totally. I'm working in here in the background. I just, I was going to pull something up. I was able to get a screenshot of this. Tell me if you could see that. But this is, something I was able to capture from the ESPN broadcast deep into the fourth quarter. And I mean, John, correct me if I'm wrong. I've never seen a guy be pressured 22 times in a game. Oop, John, I think you're muted, buddy.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
No, you're totally fine.
I agree. You don't see those kind of numbers in the 20s ever, really. And honestly, it felt like there was more pressure than that even given, though. That's the hard thing to kind of it. Even though those pressures maybe weren't counted, all of them, the offensive line allowed it as pretty much pressure every single time Sanders went back there for a pass. Honestly, it felt like.
Yeah, that's how it felt, and that's again we talk about it and where it gets so disappointing when you talk Rams or Buffaloes. Again, you look at the spread. There's 43 passing attempts. And sure, it says there's 24 rushing attempts, but, Shedeur Sanders gets credited with 13 of those for minus 20 yards while getting sacked 7 times. So that means you're really, truly only handing the ball off to a running back. Let's see here. 3 and 2 is 5 and 4 is 9. 11 times. 11 times to a running back when you're facing that kind of pressure. And it's just – it's not sustainable. You're going to get a guy hurt doing stuff like that.
Yeah, and I was, coming into this season, I think a lot of us were very hopeful for the running game of Colorado. I think it was one of those things where we see the number of backs. Those backs got us very excited, the ones that were transferring in. We thought that there was going to be a huge rotation and they could get huge chunk plays with the passing game as well as, running teams down their throat and making them tired. And we just have not seen the run game. We have not seen many of the running backs even. You see a lot of Hankerson, who was a holdover from last year. We see a lot of Edwards. But besides that, we're not seeing the full repertoire of Colorado running backs even.
Yeah, and we'll get to that a little bit because there is some interesting news coming out of the running back room from today's press conference. But here's where it's so frustrating for me, John. When you look at those first 2 drives, when we were able to drive down, kick a field goal, and then we were able to get the interception and drive just a little bit and get another field goal. Okay. Yes, we relied on the quick passing game, but there was some mixed in runs in those first couple of drives, and it got you some yardage. Yeah. So when you look at the actual totals, when you take away the 13 credited to Shedeur and you get those 11 carries and you add 20 yards rushing because you gotta cancel out those sack yardage, you see 11 carries for 45 yards. That's 4 yards a clip. That's a pretty efficient running game. It's not the best. You're not breaking off long runs like that, but you're offsetting it. So when you're looking at a game that was 7-6 at half, that was 14-9 at the end of the third quarter. So you're never outside of a 1-score game. And you are running the ball at 4 yards a clip, but you only call 7 running attempts. I mean, that's on the play calling. And I've liked Sean Lewis. I think he's made some massive changes here. But I don't understand how you can get that out of balance.
I don't either, and it feels very strange because he didn't have that issue at Kent State at all. It was one of those things where, he ran the ball at Kent State. They had, again, efficiency there, where at least the ball was going to the running back. And like you said, early in those first two drives, they were some good runs. And again, I think you can pull off some bigger runs once you start to do those 20 carries. Real quick question for you. It seems like you hate the sack total and how it goes to the running game. How would you get rid of that? Because it seems like it irks you this week, especially.
Well, it's just such a weird way to count stats. Like, I get it that I guess he's running around. Half the time when you get sacked, you don't even see it coming. You just get plowed into the ground. Is that really a rushing attempt? I like the NFL model. I think it's great to take it away, not from their – and let me clarify something. I said you take it away from their passing yardage. You don't take it away from the individual players' passing yardage. You take it away from the team passing total. So if a guy throws for 300 yards, you're still going to see him throwing for 300 yards. But if he's sacked 3 times for 10 yards, the team passing total will be 290 yards. I think that's a brilliant model of doing that because you're calling a pass play. How can it count as a running attempt?
Exactly. I agree with you there. I think the NFL has it right when it comes to that. And I think this leads to some misleading statistics, which is all I wanted to get at. Let's clear that up. And, it'd be much easier for a lot of us fans that are, not looking as in depth as you are and doing the subtraction and all those kind of different things. It's no reason to do math and football.
Yeah, exactly. It would make things it would make things much easier.
We got Clayton in the house. Hey guys.
Hey, Clayton.
He's also letting everyone know, smash that like button and share, guys. Really appreciate that, Clayton. I know you're on the MHRT network a lot with the different shows, so really appreciate you stopping in and watching some college football with us.
Awesome. Thank you, Clayton. Appreciate it, buddy. Now, let's move away from the games a little bit because there were some kind of rough quotes made after the game. Not sure how much you saw of that, but a lot of people took it as, Coach Sanders throwing his offensive line underneath the bus. Did you see any of those post-game quotes and what you think of them?
I didn't hear any quotes that made me think he was throwing the team under the bus. I think he was being just realistic. I think the offensive line knows what's going on. If you know that you're being shuffled in and there's being changes going on, you have to be aware of that. And I don't think that I didn't feel that they were being thrown under the bus, but were some of those quotes that were kind of leading to that.
Yeah, so, someone framed it as kind of in the mold of what's the bigger picture when it comes to the offensive line. And I think his exact response, well, the bigger picture is you got to go new offensive linemen. And it's one of those, of course, using very colorful language like Coach Prime does that I love. But he says, you got to get new linemen, and I'm going to paint that picture perfectly. So that's kind of the quote, and I could see where it comes off as very harsh, and especially in the era of college football morphing into more and more like pro football. I kind of see where it's coming from, but I kind of see both sides of it.
Yeah, I do see what you're talking about when it comes off as it does feel a little bit NFL kind of looking towards that. He's not talking about recruits really. He's talking more about transfer players and that kind of stuff. I can see that being a little bit harsh actually when hearing it that way, but it's very true. At the end of the day, Colorado was beat physically, beat in so many different ways with those linemen that, they're going to have to hit those transfer portal. And they're going to have to get some new guys in there. They already just recently got someone from was it Butler Community College as well?
Yeah, another offensive lineman. Yeah, I think it's Isaiah Walker, 2024. Give me 1 second. Just come here real quick.
Yeah.
Oh, come here. We got
a guest,
a little kitty cat that just joined the show. Say hi to everyone. Go.
We got a kitty cat with some vampire teeth.
Kitty cat with some big old fangs. She just got home from school. She came down to say hi to Dad. So it's Isaiah Walker. He's a 6'6", about 290. Probably a play on the outside. It's just more of those reinforcements coming in.
Yeah.
And what's awesome is it's just come up within the last probably 20, 30 minutes. But it looks like 5-star Jordan Seaton, I think is his name, is going to be taking an official visit this weekend for homecoming week.
Awesome. The Buffs definitely need to get some of those linemen. I was definitely disappointed when Tennessee got it's a Gunther Gaithers, I believe, one of the top offensive linemen. He was number one when it came to Colorado, and I think you got to win those hometown kids. So that was a hard one to lose to Tennessee. So really would like to get some of those big 5-star guys in there. Like you said, though, you have someone coming in here who's more of a reinforcement kind of guy, still skinny, going to have to, skinny in terms of, again, we're talking, college football. These guys are very strong. They're not skinny. But he's going to have to put on some weight, it looks like, as well. Really want to get real quick to what Clayton's saying here. Just to go on a little bit of tangent. How about the dub, baby? Denver Broncos for life, 8 years finally. What are your thoughts on when it comes to those kind of streaks where, again, the Broncos hadn't beat the Chiefs for 8 years? I think it was 11 games for Mahomes. The last time it was Alex Smith era, maybe. That was the last time. Actually, 2015 was the last time. So what are your thoughts on the Broncos? And then let's kind of expand that to other teams where they had those long streaks of not beating someone else in college.
Well, it's just tremendous relief. You look at rivalries like that where you can talk about it in terms of college football or pro. Those are kind of your huge games. Those are the ones you mark on the calendar. And to lose 8 years straight of those games, and actually kind of funny, the last game that we won, John, I can distinctly remember, was the one where Jamal Charles fumbled with about 30 seconds left, and we took it into the end zone in Arrowhead. That was the last game we won.
That was Bradley Roby, right?
Yep, Bradley Roby picking it up with about 30 seconds left.
Yeah,
yep.
Bradley Roby on his rookie contract. That would be his second or third year, probably year 2. So, man, it was a long time when I have to think back to that kind of era where that was Wade Phillips and they were doing so many different things. The NFL landscape, how they played, was different then. So 8 years, wow, that's incredible. And it's one of those things where, hey, when that happens in college, when you have a rivalry and that happens for so many years, it really can be deflating for a team. I was kind of thinking for a while when Michigan was having trouble getting over Ohio State. That followed them, that hurt their recruiting, all those different kind of things came up because of that. So it's really important to beat your rivals, I think, especially in college football. And that's one point I wanted to make with Clayton saying here with the Chiefs, because it will drag you down for years if you're losing to that team that that's your battle.
Yeah, no, totally agree. The rivalries are ones you got to win. So. And unfortunately for CSU, I think they're 0-2 this year. I see some big years coming up, though. I know CU is going to be at Canvas Stadium next year, and that should be a hell of a game.
Yes.
And I see big things from BFN with like Rick says, potentially this being kind of a last run for Air Force. I see him always being good. I don't know how Troy Calhoun does it. He finds players everywhere, but those chances will come up. One thing I did just kind of want to get back to, actually, a couple things. Coach Prime, kind of in reference to those conversations about the offensive line, talked about that a lot during his press conference today. So for those of you that don't know, he has a weekly press conference on Tuesdays. You guys are usually able to watch that on, I think it's Buff TV is their YouTube page that you'll be able to see that on. But he had personal meeting with all of the offensive line. And he says they're fired up. He's one of those guys where he's going to go out and say his thoughts to the media, but he's also going to be talking to those kids and letting them know his thoughts as well. So, I see that, definitely you can take some of those remarks, but he has his players' ears, and I think he's being real with them and saying, hey, you guys got to step up. You guys got to prove me wrong. And I think it sounds like they're going to be ready to prove him wrong. What do you think, John?
I think whenever you have Coach Prime, talking to you directly, a lot of those players, like you said, they step up. It gives them that motivation. They're going to attack this week very hard in terms of, working together when they have their time to practice. I think you're right in that sense that they probably had a little bit of a wake-up call. They heard the quotes. They heard kind of some of the noise, but then it was kind of quieted down by Coach Prime himself. And I think that's the key is Coach knows how to reach his own players. There's a reason why those players came to Colorado. They spoke to Prime. They spoke to Bill O'Boyle. I think they had their moments. And now it's time for them. They're going to have a relaxed kind of week and focus on themselves instead of kind of the outward noise of people saying, hey, this and that about the line. I think they're going to focus on themselves.
Yeah, it's one of those things where that's kind of the reason it's hard for me to ever be overly critical about a single quote during a single press conference, because you don't know what's going on in the background. You don't know the arguments, the happiness, the camaraderie, the absolute knockdown, drag out fights that these guys are having in the background with either other players or other coaches. We see just kind of a little glimpse of it every time we have a media session, or when he answers one of my questions, or he answers, a question from someone else in the media. You don't get the full picture. So it's really hard for me to come out and say, oh my God, he's being disrespectful with all of this, because you don't know what's going on in the background. Couple of other little nuggets I want to get to before we move on. Alton McCaskill has redshirted for the year. So you talked about that running back group. He's a guy that both of us were really excited about. He was coming off that devastating ACL injury and his last year in Houston. It sounds like this is a great way for him to get healthy and come back stronger next year. What do you think?
Yeah, I think if at this point you haven't used him, he's he obviously has some issues still going with that knee. I think that's why we haven't seen him. So might as well get him redshirted and have him ready for next year. And again, hopefully have that rotation finally get going next year where with some camp and some more time to get that run game going. Because I think he's someone who matches well with this Buffs offense and can really produce. And that for me just means, hey, Hankerson can take some more carries. Hankerson has his role a little bit bigger for the rest of the way. I think it works out best for everyone.
Yeah, totally. And then last, how the hell does the Rose Bowl allow both the home and away locker room to be robbed blind during a game? What the hell is going on, John? How does that happen?
My first question is, why don't they have safes? I every place I've heard they have a safe for those players. Just a small one. You put in your phone, you put in your stuff. That way you don't have to worry about it. So first of all, where's the safe? Second of all, where's the security? They should be right there. Was it the security doing something? I mean,
that's what you got to think. That's what you got to think of that, right?
I mean, honestly, how does someone get in like that and get the access without getting some help with someone on the inside? I'm not saying it was an inside job and someone planned this really that hard, but I think someone had access and went for both teams. It's incredible, especially with knowing what those players now are able to have in those locker rooms. They have expensive jewelry. They're worth a lot, and especially if that jewelry is just kind of some generic diamonds, just go ahead and probably sold already.
Right. Oh man, it's sad. I can't believe stuff like that would ever happen. You feel, and you could see there was some well-off media of the guys talking about it after the game, but just how does that happen? You feel so vulnerable every time something's stolen from you. And just for that to happen on that scale in that type of environment is mind boggling to me.
Especially if wallet was taken, you feel naked without your wallet. You lose your driver's license, your credit cards. That stuff really leaves you feeling kind of defenseless in that sense. And honestly, that's probably going to have the players acting a little bit different when they come to games going forward. Glad to be out of LA though, for a lot of those guys. You went to a game in LA, right?
I used to travel to LA, a lot. I spent a lot of time there for work. I was more in the Beverly Hills area. I only went down to downtown LA a few times. Now, don't get me wrong, this was in 2012, but personal bias coming through here. I thought it sucked then. Yeah. So I don't know if it's gotten worse or better now.
That's why you says no coach bias.
Exactly. Shout out to my DMVR boys. I love these shirts. But I was not a fan. Don't get me wrong. I had a hell of a fun time with a lot of the stuff out there. Used to something for just kind of funny for our viewers. I used to take Richard Simmons Sweating to the Oldies every Tuesday, and it was actually Richard Simmons teaching the class. He knew me by name and everything. He was a awesome individual to talk to about healthcare and all that. But you offset that with pretty much the biggest a-holes you'll ever run into in that area. And okay, if you're from the LA area and you take offense, don't watch a Colorado show. I don't care.
Exactly.
But literally the biggest a-holes you'll ever run into is in that part of the town. So you offset it with meeting some really nice people, but take it or leave it. I'm not a fan to go back there anytime soon.
I still can't believe you took actual classes with Richard Simmons and he was talking health with you. So it's pretty incredible. Yeah. And, he got people working out. So that's all that matters. I don't care what anyone says. There's no bad talk of Richard Simmons on this show.
Yeah, I'll find an old picture. I'll have to find it, but one of these episodes, I'll show you the old Sweating the Oldies photo of me and my mom and Richard Simmons. So
yeah, that'll be awesome. So, we're getting kind of pushed up here around the 50-minute mark. Do you want to kind of talk about the games going forward and let's kind of make some predictions?
Yeah, for sure.
First of all, let's start with Colorado. What are your thoughts going forward next week?
This has always been a game that I thought was going to be really tough for the Buffs to win, to be honest with you. Ever since back to my season previews and everything that I've talked about, Oregon is such a rough and tumble team. Oregon State, I'm sorry, is such a rough and tumble team, especially when you add a big quarterback in DJ Uiagalelei. Yes, try and say that 5 times fast. But, if he's a guy that's going to be rumbling down the field, that only adds to that. So unfortunately, I do have CU losing the homecoming game, 31-17 is what I predicted yesterday in my betting articles and what you'll see in the week coming up here. But if trends are to be believed, we've had 2 8 p.m. kickoffs and both of them have gone to overtime to not get me in bed until about 3 or 4 in the morning. So of course, this will probably go to overtime too again, and we will be there until well after midnight.
Yeah, I think this is, like you said, this is going to be a tough game. I see a lot of points for Oregon. I could see them honestly getting into the 35, even almost 42 range. Honestly, it's just a matter of if the defense can show up like they did this week. If so, the Buffs will be a little bit better off. I still see the issues with the line and all that happening. And so for me, I agree with what you're saying. I think this is going to be an Oregon State win. I think I'm going to look at the score of around 38 to 28. We'll go with. I think that they're able to pull ahead for about 10-point win. Moving on to CSU versus Wyoming, the border war. Border war. Thank you. The border war. Sorry, guys. Sorry, everybody. Still have that little bit of sickness going on. But the border war, I really think this one is actually going to be a close one. I think that Wyoming's had a tough go the last couple of weeks with Air Force, and then Boise State kind of just manhandled them, honestly. So for me, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, CSU, I think they're going to win this game, actually. I think they're going to come out, make some big plays. I think they're going to take this one 31-28.
Okay, I like that prediction. I see an over/under that's probably it's really low, and I think that probably means there's going to be some pretty crappy weather in Laramie. I see a 42-point over/under.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong. I see that both teams have scored and can score well. Yeah. Obviously Wyoming had a really rough time against Boise. I think it's going to be a pretty close game. Taylor, I like where your head's at, buddy. I would love for the boot to come home. I don't see it happening, though. Unfortunately, I am going to have to go with Wyoming. I saw them up close and personal against Air Force, and man, they're an impressive team. They got a big offensive line and can move the ball around a little bit. I have them squeaking one out at home, 20-14 over Colorado State.
That's a tough one. I really think if CSU can get that win, it's really going to turn their season around. Again, I'm very excited what CSU has coming up, and I think that's going to solidify a few more guys coming in as well for recruiting if they can. Moving on to Air Force, though, going against Army at Empower Field. What are your thoughts there? I think This obviously, whenever it's academies, it's a hard-fought game.
I don't like that spread being 18.5. So just, you guys will listen to me anytime I make my bets. I got to bring up the point spread. I got to bring up the over-unders. That's how my betting mind works.
Yes.
I see an 18.5 point spread for Air Force and a 32 over-under. It's the same thing I said about Navy Air Force when they played. I see Air Force scoring a lot and Army scoring almost nothing. So I see a little bit of an ass kicking here, but I have Air Force winning the game 28-10.
I like it. I have Air Force taking this one as well. I will go with a little bit more. I think they can get that 31 mark again. I think that tends to be where they're at when it comes to these games. And I think, like you said, Army just isn't there from what I've heard, what I've read and seen of their other games. I think they're only going to be able to get, like you said, 10 points. So 31-10, I think is money. I think that 10 number on the nose.
Awesome. Yep. And that'll mean yet another Commanders-in-Chief trophy for our Air Force Falcons, which I can't wait for us to bring that back home.
Yes, exactly. Were you able to see it by chance when you went to Air Force?
I didn't. That was one of those things I'm going to have
That's
to give.
That's what I have to do next. Yeah.
I'm going to give Rick a hard time because that's the one thing. And, of course, with the awesome day that he put together for me, I'm going to harp on the one thing that was wrong. I'm going to tell him, hey, Rick,
where was
the Commander-in-Chief's trophy, buddy?
No, but it's awesome being at Air Force. So, you being able to experience a live game and see Wyoming, I really trust you what you're saying there. I just really feel like, again, CSU is going to come up on top. Really quick, we have one more coming in from Taylor. Really appreciate you being involved. Quirky stat, the Broncos, Rams, and Buffs haven't combined for more than one win in any week this season. Ouch. That is an odd stat. Not sure how you found it. Would love to hear how you did find it.
Oh, man, Taylor dropping the bombs on us. Man, that makes me feel bad. I don't like that stat, but thank you.
It really does. And I agree. It's one of those things where once you know it, I think we're going to probably tweet that out. You should tweet that out, Taylor, if you have Twitter or X, whatever. Also hit us up when you get the chance. Follow us at CCF_sports. Would appreciate the follow, would follow you, and love to see what has you interested in sports and get your takes on more of the Rams, because I know you're a Rams guy now.
We got it. We need a stats guy. I mean, maybe we can dub Taylor the unofficial stats guru for the Rams, at least to start.
Exactly. So really appreciate it. You ready to get out of here?
Yeah, you guys have a great week. Have a very safe Halloween, whatever you do tonight. Don't get into too much trouble, and be well.
Same thoughts here echoed. Have a great one, guys, and take care. Really appreciate it again, Taylor.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Simcoe's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flame out. So high, I might never come down, so what, this is my lifestyle. Wait a minute. Work hard for the car, so that's why it's all tinted. Wait a minute.